When we started, we didn't have anything like the resources for this, and we were running the GTP programme without the laptops, and the steering committee, which has members from schools and head teachers, seeing the laptops coming into schools, was saying to us, why don't you have laptops for your trainees? And the answer to start with, we couldn't afford it. Then we saw a leasing opportunity, we leased some, and in essence we actually paid for them off, and we were able to put a small number in through our own resources. Then the TDA were offering ICT grants as they recognise more the GTP programmes. So as we've grown older with the TDA, more resources come on stream. We were able to tap into that, and so all our trainees were lent a laptop for 2 years. The first year is for the GTP year, and then into their NQT year. And at the end of that period, we call it back, and we lend it out again. Once it's past 3 years, it's out of its guarantee period, so they can buy it from us, because in essence we don't want a room full of dead laptops. And they've used them ever since. The project's grown and the TDA's supported it.
All teachers need laptops these days. You can't be connected to the world without a laptop. You can't do all the things you need. You can't use the whiteboards. You can't engage your students if you don't have access, and constant access to IT. And having constant access to IT means you have to have something that you can take from one place to another. If you've got your laptop, you can work it anywhere. You can attach it to the machinery in the classrooms, which makes the whiteboards work. You can attach it to students to make them work. You can just use it.
I was finding at the beginning, before I had a laptop and before I had access to interactive whiteboards, that I was blowing up art images, humongous, like, you know, kind of A0 size, and then getting everyone to write all over that, and then folding it up and packing it away, and obviously that paper then gets wasted, and you know, it's quite expensive on the school budget. So yeah, it was quite inconvenient before, so I always saw the importance of ICT, I'd say.
I couldn't imagine not having it as a resource to use, and it's always there around me. So just, you know, even answering a question straight away, you can go straight on the laptop and look it up on the internet. So
I love computers, and I love what I can do with them, and it's much easier. Your hand doesn't ache after writing a 10,000 word dissertation, whereas you know, on the computer you can just tap it away, and it's much easier to make mistakes and fix them. Finding out I was getting a laptop and they gave us a digital printer with a scanner as well was just brilliant. I thought, okay, that's good, I don't have to worry about getting my work done, and they provided us with all the latest software as well, which is just great.
The computer is a great source either of knowledge or a medium through which it can be transmitted. So that with a computer, and especially one that you've brought with you, you quickly turn a whiteboard into a screen. You quickly engage students because you can move from one thing to another quickly. You're able to share your thoughts with students. You're able to enable them to share their thoughts with one another clearly and in a written as well as an articulate form. Because you can play things against one another, you can move things from this place to this place and then put them together and fuse. You're constantly thinking about yourself. And of course, the only way you really improve as a teacher is you reflect on what you've done, what you should be doing, how you do it, how you might be doing it. And the reflection makes you a good teacher. And that's the difference. And that's why I like it.
Most children love working on the laptop. So you know, you can use it as an incentive, and actually they're learning on the laptop. So for enthusiasm for the children, for wanting to learn, it's a great tool. And they don't even know they're learning quite often. They think it's just playing on the computer, which is fantastic.
Good boy, well done. Let's see everybody's hands.
I was in year 5 in my previous school, which are aged between 9 and 10 years old. We were making quizzes because we were learning about the Victorians, so I was teaching them skills for ICT as well as cross-curriculum to history, so that they could make their own quizzes to share with each other about what they'd been learning about the Victorians. There's just so many resources you can have on your laptop. You know, resources you've made, resources you've picked up from courses, resources from the school, all those sorts of things, and it's no more heavier than when it was before. So
funny, isn't it? Right, okay. This is a programme that records your voice. Okay, now, I think we could think of something to talk about that you've been doing over the last 6 weeks. And what's that thing you've been thinking about in the last 6 weeks?
We've all got a car.
You've all got a car, have
And
you?
even we've all got a bus.
Do you drive, Sen, and then? Do you drive to school?
No.
You
Sometimes I scooter on my scooter.
Scooter?
And a bike.
We've got mixed year groups, so it means you have to make sure that you're differentiating within the classroom. The laptops give you that opportunity to give a more challenging task to the children who need that challenging task, and not so challenging for other pupils, but at the same time the tasks can look quite similar, so they don't realise they're doing different tasks but are more challenging. And the computer enables you to differentiate in a better way. Instead of, if you didn't have the computers, you couldn't have it already set up for them and differentiate in a group style with the laptops.
Okay, Sen, can you tell me a type of vehicle you see out on the road?
A motorbike.
A motorbike?
Yesterday afternoon I learned how to use one of the programs here. Straight after I got the laptops out, got the children on it, and we were all learning it together, and they loved it. It was something new for them, something new for me.
That's lovely. And your doll? She's like got really curled up fingers and toes, like a real baby.
We film their pieces of work in progress, quickly shove it onto the laptop, they can see it on a big screen, and they're like, oh God, I pulled my tights up in the middle of that scene. It's like, yes, and it wasn't very pretty, and they can self-evaluate themselves, so it's great, it's good for them
I was
as well.
going to eat them all, and then I go, okay, there's no cakes up, but then the next line is we can share one, and I was like...
You need to look at how you've cut the script, because,
It doesn't make sense.
yeah, and you can understand it standing in, which you know, you
that
might
is
need
our
someone...
original script, we have a cut up one. Like
Right,
has.
oh, okay.
It's like really useful because you don't realise like what you really look like from the audience like when they see it, and I noticed that I like fidget loads, so like I was like kicking my feet and stuff, and I didn't realise that I was actually doing it.
Helps us like see how we use the space and stuff, and which we didn't realise when we were doing it, obviously.
You can see what doesn't look right, so you can change it. It still also needs to be added.
It helped us because we could tell what props we needed to use as well when things didn't look quite right.
Yeah, we haven't had like a teacher bring in like use ICT in our drama lessons before, so it's like, yeah.
You could get pregnant the first time, you know.
Oh, thanks for telling me now.
Well, if you come to me and said...
I did! I said I wanted to have a talk with you.
The students were looking at the fates, and they couldn't relate to it. And it sounds awful, but the Disney movie Hercules does a very gruesome depiction of the fates, and I quickly typed it into my computer and got up the scene with the fates. It's great for really snappy resources. Obviously you have to be careful of the validity of them, and students have to be aware that everything, you know, Wikipedia doesn't rule all, but it's great for getting the research, and sitting at home I don't have to worry about getting all my work done in school.
If I've got a interactive board in the room, I always show them the intended learning outcomes and talk those through at the beginning of the lesson. Usually there's 2 learning outcomes. Today there was 3 because I wanted them to talk about their work as well at the end. So yeah, I'll show them that first, talk it through, ask them lots of questions about it, so and identify the success criteria and things like that to make sure they can do that. And once I've gone through that, today they're actually doing a project on African masks, so to try and kind of enthuse them a little bit, and while they're lining up outside the room and things, I've had Windows Media Player on to have some kind of African sounds going on. At the beginning of the project, they've done a lot of things on the context and things like that, so why they're making African masks and what they're used for and which kind of ritual purposes and things they are for, and everything. I haven't got it up at the moment, but I've also used Google Earth with them to have kind of zoom in on cities and countryside and things in different parts of Africa, so they can actually kind of see what and think about, so they've got a visual reference and something to listen to. You need to bring that to me as soon as possible, but don't go now. I've got kind of a couple of students to film each other giving a demonstration on a project they're really familiar with, So then they can do that demonstration, and I'll record the sound and the imagery and put it up on the whiteboard for the rest of the class to see, and then they're watching another student doing a demonstration rather than me sitting in the front of the class and doing that for them. So, yeah, I think that makes them feel a little bit more engaged. On those lessons, I find a lot of people being a little bit more open and showing me what they can do, because then they want the opportunity to do that kind of demonstration, to be filmed next kind of thing. So that's really, yeah. And they give me good feedback as well, because recently I've realised that I'm just taking it on assumption when they enjoy things or don't enjoy things. So I've been asking people a lot more at the end of lessons, and I do generally get good feedback about ICT. I honestly don't think I'd be able to do this course, and I certainly wouldn't be able to do this course well if I didn't have the laptop. Everything really is centred around it, I think, because of especially the internet, so I can just quickly look at resources and research things. And my lesson planning, that needs to happen on the laptop, and you'd be able to email that and communicate it to other people as well. So, you know, I send my lesson plans to TAs like 3 days early and things like that, so they've got it, so they can see what I'm planning to teach and how they can support my lessons, and that kind of helps with another standard of the QTS booklet, so the reasons why it's a good thing.
What's been really good for me is being in my second placement, having the laptop, being able to communicate with my mentor about questions that I may not have had answered during the day, and feeling much more confident to come in the classroom with that information. It's really nice because they answer if they're on email, and it's not like phoning up at very late night, you know, and being on email means you're not really communicating with them unless they're available at the time. So it makes it more of a relaxed communication, because you know it's on your mentor's terms when they've got the time to do the work or answer a question for you, and so you're more able to ask those questions that you didn't know the answers to, because you know you're not interrupting their evening or disturbing them.
I do tend to try and hunt Richard down if I need to show him something. It's very easy. School email is instant. So it is literally attach and send, and that's great. Also, I have an in-school tutor as well. We meet fortnightly, but she's just on the end of an email and replies instantly if I have a problem or if I need some advice about something. And it's great for communication. It builds you a support network. And I'm not in the main performing arts staff base, so I can email all the teachers that I work with, and one of the teachers checks my lesson plans for me to check I've got the learning objectives right and everything. So sending that to her with new Microsoft 2007, you can mark on the Microsoft document, which is great, sends it back with comments, and then I can edit it myself. It's great for communication in school.
Having a laptop is great because you can all have a bit of a moan to each other. I mean, I try and do that off of the VLE, but on my own email. So just having someone there on the other end saying, yeah, it's really hard sometimes, and having that kind of support network has been really kind of encouraging. So if you didn't have that, there's times where you think that, you know, you may have actually hit rock bottom. But knowing somebody else is at the other end in the same situation, getting through it as well. Your peers sometimes do have the answers to those questions, so they're just another resource to use and kind of pick their mind over. And, you know, being at the other end for somebody else, and they can ask you questions or share, you know, you can share what you've been doing is really nice as well, to give that back to somebody.
They do think you're quite cool if you know what Facebook and YouTube are, which is good. Obviously, being staff, you have to be very careful about Facebook and all those things, making sure that you don't have any students who try to add you or have ways of looking at your page, and make sure you've got protection on there. But, you know, they do think that you're pretty cool if you know how to use it, and it's like, oh, miss, did you see blah, blah, blah on TV last night? No, but I caught it on BBC iPlayer later. And, oh, yeah, miss, BBC iPlayer is wicked. So I think they sort of, they like the fact that you know what they're talking about.
I've been able to bring in ideas and ways of doing things on the computer, and where a classroom may not be able to see how it can work, seeing me do something like that has actually shown them how they can implement it within the classroom, which is really nice. Instead of me asking them for help, I can show them something, so I'm sharing what I've got with them. I mean, this is my second placement and I haven't been here very long, But bringing in games on the computer, which they love, has really helped me to build a relationship with the children, because they see me as somebody fun and learning through the computer. So that relationship may not have been quite so strong if I had been trying to get them to do things, in a different way, because to them, they feel like they're playing all the time. I can go in and show other professionals in the job how to use it and look at this really good programme. So I'm not the only one who's asking questions, wanting things, needing things. I'm actually showing other professionals in school new programmes, new software, and I feel quite confident in doing that, and it makes me feel like I've got a place in the school.
We monitor it through evaluations that we run, and all the while it's been very high. So if you like, we also run a library through the library service, and we say, how good was your laptop, how useful? At the end of the programme, they say, laptop excellent, always gets top marks. How good was the library to you? And we get satisfactory to good. So, just as a comparator, the laptops have always been regarded as very highly. We've had to sort out how to handle what started as a small number, and I would put the software onto it, to now there must be over 100 out from us. So we've brought in people who will look after them, if you like, and service it. But it works very well. There isn't a university in this neck of the woods. So when our trainees do essays, where do they get the books and the resources? They do have access to the slightly distant universities, but that's never easy. What we're starting to negotiate with is to find e-library access. We're then talking with other organisations like JISC and what's more on things like getting specialist ICT people to programme book searches. I'm not quite sure where we're going with it, but we should be able to provide our trainees and our teachers with the same resource as if we had a great big university parked just outside here. And the moment we can't do that, because there's a distance element, we're trying to overcome that. I think eventually the physical existence of a university won't be the important thing, but the connectivity will apply whether you live in a small village in Dorset or middle of Plymouth or Bristol or London. So in a way that's partly what we're aiming for.
I keep thinking that the 5 things that students use the digital world for most, that is telephoning one another or being in touch with one another through Facebook, for playing games, for watching and indeed making films, using their phones often, are the things that we ban. Schools ban computers. We ban the ability, we ban the place where students learn fastest. Now, we know students learn very quickly they learn very quickly to use electronic equipment. If you can harness that speed and that complexity and that individual learning, then you're going somewhere.